right, welcome, guys. Onboarding the next million. We might become billion, but onboarding the next million, so we're not making quite that big. Let's go down the line and get some introductions.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I'm from the developer experience team at Events Conferences. I'm super excited to be here.
My name's Rick, and I've been pushing wallets up the hill for a while and still trying.
Okay, thanks for having me. So this is Gigi from Bobby Ventures.
I'm June. I manage the Korean market for Ledger.
Richard from Fabric again. I'm part of some kind of Brad Richard panel sandwich going on here, so like we could jump in.
Alright, first question, maybe unnecessarily aggressive, but after years of development, why is the wallet experience still so clunky?
So I'll take this question. So definitely the UX problem is an issue. So previously, before this introduction of account extraction, everyone has to remember all the secrets and learn about the entire crypto ecosystem, like storage, cold storage, hardware, software wallet to actually access to different DeFi apps. And this is definitely difficult for an average non-crypto native users to actually understand and have incentives to learn about the entire ecosystem. And also, the people have to rely on different EOA accounts to actually sign in into different DeFi platforms. And this is definitely difficult for the people to streamline the process. So we definitely need some sort of improvements after the account extraction introduction into the space.
Sure, I'd love to just show one area that we've improved, we released, and you can see here that we've removed the need for Wallet Connect. Now, I don't know, how many people here have used Wallet Connect? Okay, and how many people here have had a problem getting their wallet to connect to the Wallet Connect? Right, and I'm sorry about that. I helped get Wallet Connect started, and we did our best, but it isn't the best system. And then Apple came out with this ability to extend Safari, and we released a wallet yesterday actually that makes use of this. So this is one side of the friction, which is interacting with dApps on your phone, and then the other side that I spent a lot of time on is on hardware wallets. And this is an alternative to Ledger. I'm a huge fan of what Ledger's achieved as a company. But one of the areas that I struggle with Ledger is that I need a desktop computer to update many of the parts of it. And this is mobile first from the beginning. And so what I would say is that I think that wallet companies have done their best within the constraints of the technology that we're allowed. There are new advances and extensions, there are new kinds of hardware teams popping up, and with things like group wallets from Safe and Gnosis, and then of course the move to account abstraction, we're making some big moves. But the one thing I would step back in is question the question here. If you've ever sent a wire transfer internationally, it's 27 pieces of information. So at least on just sending money, we've got a better user experience, like objectively. So I think there's work to do, but it always is. I'll keep going.
Since I now know how many of us have issues with Wallet Connect, I'll just shameless plug MetaMask SDK, bring in the functionality of our wallet into JavaScript projects, Unity, soon to be Unreal Engine. Yeah, I think clumsiness, we're making progress in the right direction. If anybody remembers, 2016 wallet experience, we've made some, but we can only move as fast as the feedback that we're getting, right? We need to know where are the struggles coming from, what are the actual problems that need to be solved, and then we can begin to integrate those solutions.
How about you guys, Jim? Richard? If I say that Ledger has provides clunky experience, I think the PR team will give me. Ledger, we actually strive to provide as much great user experience as much as possible without sacrificing any of the security. So we are a security-first company. We mentioned, he mentioned that you need a computer to update the device. You actually can use your Ledger MetaMask, not to your mobile phone, and update from there. So you don't actually need to be sitting on your desk to update as well. So these are improvements that we're making. And we came up with ledger stacks that is really a next generation hardware wallet where your focus is really delivering that user experience that people haven't experienced before with the e-ink display. And it makes a lot of fashion statement as well when you actually place it down on your phone and people can actually see what kind of NFT you're holding. So it's not just a hardware wallet, but it's also kind of lifestyle, fashion accessory as well. So it blends in with your everyday life.
I'm looking forward to having my first ledger stacks. I need to be able to flex some more. First of all, we are Ledger investors. We're also consensus investors. I also downloaded Dawn in the last day. I've been checking it out. We also backed Argent, and we also backed Mir, who have had account extraction for a couple of years now, and moving towards other kind of extensions to that. But I think, one thing you said before, but maybe I'll pick up on Rick's question to the questioner. I think it's true. The current systems for doing international wire transfers can be totally abysmal. Utterly abysmal. Confusing and horrendous, and they might fail. The problem is, the problem with Web3 is that the hurdle is slightly different because the trust model is different. People are educated and people tend to perhaps initially trust banks, but ultimately it will kind of sort itself out and the money will get there or they won't lose it or whatever, so they kind of don't persist. So the hurdle is high for us in the industry to get it right. And whilst, of course, you still have to even think about the concept of gas, or when you're paying for some fees, or choosing which network you're interacting with, or you can't just automatically have some kind of sophisticated social recovery, or you find yourself kind of re-authenticating because you're involved in some more complex blockchain application. It's not good enough. And in fact, we should pat ourselves on the back that we made the progress we have with those complexities. A lot of people, but I think if we, a lot of us are in it, maybe are indulging in our own sort of nootropics to think that we don't have to make sort of big steps forward, or Gatorade or whatever that we're high on if we don't have to make big steps forward to get to the next. Let's forget million. I think that's kind of under promising and over delivering. We might be able to get the next million on by the end of the panel or the evening at least, but it's definitely about the next million the next couple of years.
Question for Lauren. MetaMask, it's almost one of those brands that's synonymous with the product at this point. So how has MetaMask established such a large market share, and how do you plan to maintain that market share? And just as a warning, I'm going to ask Rick next how he plans to take that market share.
Absolutely. So I think the first mover advantage, it definitely didn't hurt us. If you look at accessibility and our approach to accessibility, with the Chrome extension on one and then mobile on the other, these are already places where people are familiar, they don't want to get started. So then you make your account and it's all very simple. And so even if you're brand new to Web3, making a MetaMask wallet, you're making your account rather, it's not a challenge. It's not super scary the way a lot of onboarding in the Web3 can be. The way we plan to maintain this, it's really just looking forward toward increasing security, increasing the user experience, and then reaching the audience that are still a little bit hesitant.
Rick, what do you think?
No, I think everyone has to give credit to MetaMask for innovating the model of bringing a wallet into a browser. I think that one of the things that everybody in technology suffers from is this thing I refer to as almost desktop blindness. Because we can all afford a laptop and we can all afford some form of desktop computer. We live with mobile phones, but we actually don't live on mobile phones. And so a huge amount of time I've been spending is what is it like to live kind of entirely on an Android or even a Huawei device? I don't know how many of you have heard of the Petal Store, but this is Huawei's fork of the Google Play Store that allows them to kind of distribute apps into Asia and Africa. And so I'm much less interested in trying to denigrate the incredible work of the MetaMask team, all the progress they've made and the hundreds of billions of dollars of assets they secured. And much more because all is microscopic and new and early, we can experiment with these new opportunities and perhaps chart like new waters. And we want other wallets to integrate Safari because Apple loves it. You know, they approved our wallet in 2 days, no issue. We want people to explore what's possible on Android, but the area that I would maybe push back on the industry on is this use of React Native. So if you're not familiar, it's this write once in JavaScript and ruin your app everywhere it's deployed. And it leads to apps that are highly non-performant. They don't go with the grain of a platform, and particularly on Android, they just crash all the time. And so I think raising our kind of quality bar for high trust, extremely well executed native applications, that should be the minimum. And another wallet that I'll highlight that's about to launch is called Family, and that's phenomenal user interface and animation design. So I think ultimately wallets are like love songs. Lots of people are going to keep building them and a way of kind of expressing yourselves. And just like browsers, it's such an interesting area that we're going to see massive amounts of innovation.
Similar question for Jun. You guys dominate the hardware wallet space. How do you plan to maintain that dominance?
So, we keep saying that people don't call hardware wallets anymore. They just call it ledger because we have such a dominance in the market. So this is actually one of the reasons why Ledger Stacks came out with such design is that we want to grow the market. Right? Those design actually appeal to a lot of general audiences, and we are educating a lot of people, outside of the space as well, on why they need self-sovereignty in Web3, in crypto, why they need self-custody. This is to really educate the general audience and get them onboarded and increase really the whole market itself. So that's what we're focusing on right now.
For Gigi and Richard, as investors, what do you think the next evolution of wallets is? What are you looking for in potential investments?
So definitely the improvements in the user experience will be something that we're looking at. So we have been looking at quite a lot of the wallet or account extraction kind of projects that can leverage on the latest EIP 4337 updates in terms of EIP standard. So definitely we can see, say like Argent, so Wallet, Zero Lab, they are trying to leverage on the latest update to improve the entire user experience in Wallet. We hope to see more people will be on board to the Web3 after incorporating these kind of abstractions tooling in the space.
So I think we're still at the stage where innovation taking place in the wallet level. So I think it can still be a great investment. I mean, we've asked the questions, so I'll focus on that. But I actually like Rick's metaphor with songs. I think the way wallets will go, well, first of all, we need to get to a point in the future where you can be custodying your own assets and demo data and so forth. So we'd be much more sophisticated in the way in which wallets work. And at the same time, obviously, have privacy preservation. So kind of the cross between ZK and 4337 is got to be the direction to go, especially with the promise of having a kind of decentralized relay network. That means that there's no third-party trust model involved at all in a kind of abstraction. So I think that all is like a new wave. If I said on actually another discussion in Paris that we might even have a kind of account abstraction summer ahead of us, like we had a DeFi summer. I think it can be that kind of little ripple of innovation to push us all forward. But I think, like songs, there's going to be a lot of them. And like songs, some will be hits. And sort of back end, but there'll be a lot of them, and they'll be to suit lots of different purposes and situations. And that's going to require real work and creativity. So I'm not going to sort of denigrating the amount of work and creativity involved in doing that. But some will be hits. But that doesn't necessarily make wallets therefore great investments for an investor. But the extremely essential components of the ecosystem that need to work phenomenally well. But there's going to be thousands of millions of different types literally, as well as billions, trillions of dollars per second. That's how I view it.
speaking of account abstraction, and a lot of you mentioned user experience, and I think to improve the user experience, it is going to be necessary to abstract away a lot of the things we're doing manually now. But it seems like abstracting things away means making choices on behalf of the user. So is it possible to make things easier to use or more convenient without sacrificing trustlessness?
Yeah, so definitely I think the upgrade in the VIP standard it helps. So previously it's hard for the general users to enjoy the CFI experience while sacrificing the DeFi security. But currently with the account restriction upgrades on the VIP standard, they can definitely doing that while for example, like the HOD smart contract actually are representing the wallets. And then basically the wallets can be signed with the smart contract directly without inputting all the seed phrase and signing on different kinds of the EOS accounts. And this can definitely do the realizations and maintaining both the security as well as the user experience and convenience.
I think one interesting example is seeing how Lens has this bundler, so you don't have to sign a transaction every single time you're posting on Lens Protocol. But another way I like to think about it is less in terms of what tech we can apply to wallets to move wallets forward in some kind of literally abstract way, but like, what is the minimum number of taps somebody has to go through to have a magical experience with any of this technology? When do they have a moment where they think, I want to be part of this? That's either like joining a community through an NFT they own, or sending money to a friend that would have been difficult to send otherwise, or getting access to some kind of financial instrument that wouldn't have any. And whatever we can do to reduce that number of taps, I think increases the excitement something has around the product. I mean, everybody's had this experience with ChatGPT where you tap out a sentence, hit enter, and magic starts happening. And that's probably as few taps as you can have to have a truly extraordinary and magical software experience. That's like the pinnacle so far, honestly, in terms of my personal usage. But that's like one lens I wish I look at it through.
I completely agree. If the goal here is to remove as much of the barrier to entry as possible, then we can look at, say, the power of using gas abstraction in gaming, which is historically a Web2 dominated field. So by abstracting away like some of these pieces that kind of make it a little more nerve-wracking to onboard, it's facilitating onboarding in a way that we haven't yet seen.
I think I like. I'll try and avoid the kind of the references to the particular lens I might be taking here, because that's all the puns were unintended. But I like building on Rick's point apparently. But again, taking it further, I don't think it's about reducing the number of taps. It's about having no taps. I think that's where we should hold the bar. Something that we talk about DeFi. I've talked about it. DeFi shouldn't be DeFi. Slightly different phrase, but it should be zero DeFi. So we should be going about our business, and the finance that we need, the insurance we need, the credit we need should be provided to us because we're comfortable enough with the system we're operating with or interacting with, all the information is there and it just happens. And so I think that bar of kind of zero taps is kind of where we want to get to. So it's a pretty high bar. And I think that's going to have to be coupled with, that's only going to happen if we don't just trust, comfortable with the usability. Not only can we trust the level of privacy we're going to get within these systems, which is crucial for the next billion, but also obviously the business model. And so, this next wave of dApps, they will be intrinsically social. Our identities are the center of them. And it was touched upon on the previous panel, but I think it's relevant here to the next million or billion. The power of this next wave has got to be that it has a pluggable architecture, if we want to kind of use that kind of quasi-technical framing, for the business model, for the token economics. Now that we've got the ad revenue taken away, people can be really innovative about creating incentive structures that are benign for the communities that they're serving. And so if you get all of those things right, it's zero tax. You can trust the privacy aspect of things, and you know you're not the product, and you're not going to be effed over by using it. Then that's not going to have the next billion and have everybody on it. It's going to be a totally different world.
Do you have any thoughts on trustlessness versus convenience?
I believe that everything comes from actually trust. When you mention trustworthiness, it's based on the fact that you actually trust the contract that you're signing on, like for the account instructions as well. So, I'll say it's really focused on the user experience after having a complete trust of the system or the contract that you're signing on.
Here's a question that's right in line with the title of this session. Do you think the next, million or billion are going to come from advances within crypto or events outside crypto? For example, recently a lot of people started looking to Bitcoin again because of the banking crisis rather than like an upgrade or something changed to Bitcoin.
Well, I think it's actually both, especially I'm kind of saying safe here, but really it comes from a lot of people's needs to have. I mean, we talk a lot about user experience, but the real reason why we're in Web3 is because we actually need it, right? I guess kind of with self-experience myself. I'm actually a Korean American living in Korea, and as a foreigner, the banking system is terrible for foreigners in Korea, and really to kind of navigate in the financial system, the next financial system, where I need to be in the Web3, I need to use crypto, I need to be financially completely self-control, self-sovereignty in this area. So there's a need for that. I believe that comes either kind of like the exterior demand. Interior demand, I guess you mentioned about user experiences, that user experiences definitely accelerate or lower the entry barriers for a lot of people to get in. I think there was definitely a perceived image of Web3 being very kind of difficult to get into. If we are able to kind of create that image from inside where the users are able to, be more value to Web3 without, thinking about how technical difficulty it's not anymore, for sure. I think that will definitely increase a lot of demand.
I'll be quick. Get me out of the way. So I think we'd love it to be, the banking crisis that really precipitates the next billion or whatever, and the DeFi kind of, really starts to will it out. I think it's just still super hard because the banking system is the government, it's all intertwined. It's a little tricky to unwind. And so, we've been thinking that actually some of the institutions that we weren't waiting for before to get on board, the media institutions might well be the first ones. So we it's a silly phrase, rather than DeFi, it's kind of decull culture, so it's sports, media, entertainment, and that, in those areas they have ready audiences, fan bases, and in a sense, and this is it's so quick, this will become like a thing or whatever, you're seeing Web 2.5 happening, where they're willing to compromise and come towards the kind of Web 3 movement. And I think one of the reasons they're willing to do that, first of all, because they're not regulated in the same way. Secondly, maybe because people like Elon potentially might shake them up or are shaking them up, and their business models in trouble. But thirdly, they've seen this movie. No medical attendant, but they've seen this movie before because they've seen themselves impacted by the first wave of digitalization. They know it's real. Will happen, it'll really change things. So I think that might be where it happens.
Yeah, so definitely we see that going forward, crypto is definitely both outside and inside crypto factors can happen because of course it is in Hong Kong and previously the regulatory front is super hard for us to fully want crypto because they like for the fiat and off-ramp or for the trading side there's a lot of restrictions. So going forward, we think that the regulatory or the financial funds could be releasing, especially in the Asian side. It's like in Taiwan, Japan, and Hong Kong, and that too. Probably will have more best options. And also within crypto, there's certainly a lot of factors that are also so say like in the previous quarter, a lot of the crypto demands were driven up purely from the financial incentive side. So take example of the DeFi protocols or later protocols, we are basically providing a sustainable growth. But going forward, we see a lot of narratives starting, especially on the hardcore gaming or some sort of social narrative. They are more incorporated into the actual real life of the people, and they can be incorporated into daily life. And definitely this kind of non-financial incentives, say like entertainment or leisure kind of incentive will be helpful in bringing more users into the entire crypto ecosystem.
I also think we have to acknowledge how much we've shrunk the industry in the last 2 years. I mean, millions and millions of people have had the user experience of losing money or losing access to their money. And that is about as terrible as user experience as you can have with software as you can possibly conceive. So we have to acknowledge that between Celsius and FTX and these massive blow-ups, that we failed like the general public. And we pissed off Apple, we pissed off many of the platform providers, and I think that we've gone from maybe the whole ecosystem being a credit to society to actually being in debt. And that's not good. And it's like from those ashes that you've got to kind of honestly say, what are we offering people? Well, one of the areas I think a lot of people are starting to feel uneasy about is how little they actually own digitally. So you don't own your phone number really. If you stop paying, it gets deleted. Your email's hosted by another provider. Everybody's got a friend of a friend who's been removed from a social network for a while. It's not like a niche thing anymore. There's this sense that all of the work you put into your online life is not yours to own, and that it's kind of paid for in some way or linked to some subscription or linked to some other company. And I do think that over time, having better and better stories how people can control, and perhaps that would only be possible if there was a neutral base layer. But that creates, opportunities to bring people in and they'll feel like some sense of control, particularly over digital cultural objects. But yeah, I do think we also need to concede just how many people feel burned by what we've done, and burned by us not calling out these obvious kind of awful human beings. I think one heuristic we should have is if somebody makes $1 billion and is blabbing about it too quickly, we can just all say that that's like not very culturally sensitive to any part of the mission. We should call those people out, because otherwise they will keep scamming regular people and this industry will contract.
Absolutely. I think we've done a rather poor job as an industry of controlling the narrative, which is ultimately our responsibility, to remind people that there are bad actors. It doesn't make it bad technology or, anything like this. So taking back that control is going to happen internally, and that's sort of like the next step. It's a requirement, really, for onboarding the next 10, let alone billion people.
All right, we're almost out of time. I guess I'll keep going until we get kicked off. This is a question I like. What's an unpopular opinion you have about crypto? Something that is not widely shared by those around you. For example, a sector that is popular but you think is overhyped. What are your hot takes?
So personally, I think the combination of AI and crypto may be a little bit overhyped because the development of the entire audio could take a lot more time and resources and time that needs to be taken very much longer. And we see the majority of the current AI mixed crypto kind of projects is still very much lack of actual use case. So definitely, I personally think this is relevant.
Yeah, I think the move to private token sales, but sells back enormously. And shoving basically all seed round deals into private simple agreement for future tokens has been so anathema to the original genesis of Ethereum. People fail to understand how Ethereum compared to other protocols. I think it made like 100,000 people $100,000. And that's a really special thing. A lot of people were able to get in early, and every 3-year period, if you held ETH, you did well. And that created this amazing distributed set of people who were benefiting from the ecosystem. And then because of the Filecoin staff and this movement of funds and all the fear of regulation, all of I got shoved back into private deals, email threads, DocuSign. I'm party to all this stuff, and it just makes me feel uncomfortable. Where, VCs are saying, we're not sure about the regulation on the way in, but as soon as there's a token ready to be dumped, they're pretty sure about their regulatory position. And so I think that if we can find tasteful ways to push back against regulatory frameworks and allow regular people to participate again at earlier stages, and if founders can absorb themselves a degree that content them and can think about longer term vesting for their projects, but we can step back into a path that it's not like already laid down for founders, which is try and start the lowest possible valuation, smallest amount of capital you need to get going, and spin up flywheel from there. Because if you enrich your community, they'll stick around. Whereas if you destroy the community by dumping on them, it's pretty terrible. And I know that I've been involved with things that haven't got this quite right, but I've always tried to at least be open about it, and I've certainly been the one losing. But I still think it's better to allow people to experiment in the open and have wins and losses than to continue to have this kind of private financing, public dumping, which is just endemic to the ecosystem now. So that's how I feel, and it obviously makes a lot of people upset when I say that.
I think it doesn't make me upset. I think I could not agree more. I think that, well, first of all, say this. Maybe this is unpopular. We haven't got any use cases yet. So it's not a question of thinking that some are overblown. We have not got them. But that's okay, because what we've been doing is incredibly complicated. It's like, an entire new computing stack. It's an entire new way of funding communities. It's an entire new way of governing communities. And so what is going to happen, I would predict, is that we will find some of those use cases will emerge. Some actual proper games that work, or some actual, pooling of health data that works, or, some of the use cases that takes off. And then I would predict that all of the stuff around the Ethereum, fair launch and even some aspects of ICOs and token launches and so forth, all of that learning, the good bits will come together, and I think can deliver on a lot of what Rick is saying. I think he's absolutely right. It's like, that is one of the core principles, the inclusivity, the power of including people and being fair to them is one of the absolute core tenets of the whole movement. And getting it wrong, which is going to happen sometimes, it's like giving a party and then running out of food, which I hope we're not doing at the back, there's a lot of people here. It's like, you do have to get it right, otherwise you burn the crowd and the thing flops. But so I think we haven't got a use case yet, but it's okay because it takes time, it's going to come, and then all of that incredible power of community ownership is going to come back, and it's going to be the thing that turbocharges the whole thing.
All right, Jim and Lauren, if you have any, if not, we'll wrap there.
I guess I'm going to say this is my own personal opinion. I do have a gaming background. So when I see a mention of Web3 gaming, I do tend to have a very high expectations. A lot of businesses and startups see of Web3 gaming is that they think about Web3 first prior to the gaming. As a gamer, for the consumers, they are completely focused on the gaming experience first. And Web3 really comes second, only when it's needed. So, you mentioned about we're talking about crowdfunding and everything. I mean, for Web3 games as well, we've seen a lot of they are like NFT scene really grew because of Web3 gaming as well, and we saw benefits of that. We also see what happens in the long term when it's not really focused on the gaming experiences. I'm not sure if it's really healthy for the whole ecosystem. But as a gamer myself, I would definitely want to see a lot more Web2 games focused purely on the gaming experience first, and then we can create the Web3 ecosystem.
Thanks a lot, guys.